It's official. Chris Fredo Cuomo really is an idiot. Well, after threatening bodily harm on camera to a TV viewer who referred to him as Fredo, Chris Cuomo was given a few days off by CNN. You know, kind of let the dust settle, let things cool down. And when he returned to the airwaves, he had a breaking story, an in-depth investigative report on Donald Trump in comparison to his predecessors. And this is what he came up with.
Look at presidents when they come in and when they leave. I mean, come on. Look at Clinton's hair. Went white. George W. Bush looks like he got a beat down. Obama looks like his own grandfather. I mean, look at it. I mean, this is a very hard job because of the stress that they carry with them. Now, let's look at this president. It's been almost 3 years since Trump won the presidency. He looks exactly the same. I mean, his hair is like, I don't know what's going on with that. But look, he may do things that presidents in the past haven't done to augment their physical reality. But it could also be that he doesn't care the way others have.
Gentlemen, Ciccolini here may talk like an idiot and look like an idiot, but don't let that fool you. He really is an idiot.
He's not getting old fast enough? He doesn't look like he's getting old fast enough? Really? This is what you came up with? This is why you don't want to be called Fredo, and you want to be taken seriously that you are Chris Cuomo, an anchor on CNN. You know things. You give people every night the truth.
I can handle things. I'm smart. Not like everybody says. Like dumb. I'm smart and I want respect.
Now, the comparisons you're making there, Chris, I don't want to insult you. I certainly don't want to infer that you're Fredo, the dumb brother. But you do know that you are comparing the pictures of Clinton, Bush, and Obama after they had served 8 years in the presidency. Donald Trump has barely served 3 years in the presidency. You do understand there's still 5 years to go. You do understand that 3 years and 8 years is not the same time frame. And if you were really going to do due diligence on this issue, you would show us pictures of Obama and Bush and Clinton 3 years into their presidency, not 8 years, right? You get that, right, Chris?
I can handle things. I'm smart. Not like everybody says. Like dumb. I'm smart and I want respect.
Now, of course, Chris had quite a monologue about the fact that great men, leaders, he who wears the crown knows no sleep. And yet this president is quoted as saying he doesn't have any problem sleeping. And he is obviously detached, de-stressed, because he doesn't take the job of being president seriously. Nothing keeps him up at night. You know, I seem to recall when the president first took the Oval Office, first began his duties as president, everybody in the lying legacy corporate corrupt mainstream media was blasting the fact, doesn't this man ever sleep? Why, he's tweeting at 2 o'clock in the morning. He's tweeting at 5:30 in the morning. And it became a known fact that this president averages about 4 to 5 hours sleep a night. 4 to 5 hours. He's constantly working. There's never a time he's not working. And yet, Chris Cuomo, the best he can come up with, because apparently he hasn't gotten the rest of the Democratic talking points that he's supposed to be helping concoct the phony, fake, manufactured recession. He's been out for a few days, and he was a little bent sideways, and he got called Fredo, and that just has him kind of like not thinking straight. Like when a Major League ball player steps into the batter's box, and he gets called for a strike that he believes is out of the strike zone, and he gets miffed at the ump, and then he can't concentrate the rest of the bat and ends up striking out because he let one bad call from the ump throw his concentration. Well, And that's kind of like Fredo Cuomo now. He's had his concentration distracted, and he doesn't know that we've gone from Russian collusion to phony recession talk. So he's got to come up with something. So Donald Trump isn't getting old fast enough. He doesn't take the job seriously. He's obviously just there to play, and he's not grasping the weight of what he has to deal with, and it's not aging him. But if it did age him, we would certainly be told that obviously he's not up to the task. He's too old. He's too decrepit. He's too feeble. Anybody ever compare some pictures of Ronald Reagan throughout his presidency? Ronnie always looked good. Ronnie was always up to the challenge. And by the way, when Donald Trump says things don't bother him, that doesn't mean he's not taking the job seriously. It means he's not a mental case. It means he's not an emotional basket case. By the way, if I were Barack Obama and George W. Bush, I would look like they looked at the end of 8 years, especially after having inflicted all of that pain on wars we never should have been involved in. All of the lying and the cover-up and the expanding of our own state to become the deep state, to focus all of our resources and attention on spying on and tracking the American people through our text messages, through our emails, through our cell phone calls. Boy, if I was illegally spying on someone else running for president and then working within the intel community to try to cover it up and blame it on Russia, I think I might look like an old hag too, because after all, you know the Bible, here I go again, I'm going to bring that in. I'm going to cloud a perfectly great argument with facts. The Bible says, your sin will find you out. No matter how good of a liar he is, there are just certain telltale signs that are built naturally into man he can't cover for. He can try to orchestrate and practice it away, but they will give him away every time. And one of them, the thing called the scars of sin. Did you ever meet somebody that lived a really hard life and they look like an old man, an old woman, way before their time? You know, somebody that partied hard, did a lot of drugs, a lot of abusive behavior to their own bodies. They look worn and haggard, don't they? Maybe the problem with the pictures you're showing us is the fact that these are men who did some pretty nasty things while they were in office, and the scars of sin just sort of showed up on their faces, a lot more prevalent than the stress and the pressure that a president that we have now that's more interested in giving us solutions and resolving matters rather than exasperating them for political gain and making them worse. Now, Chris then goes on this little example-laden tour of the things that ought to be weighing heavy on this president.
And if policy doesn't haunt his sleep, certainly the problems for people should, no? Imagine sleeping at night or sleeping easily, nothing keeping you up, when people are dying, when they shouldn't. Concerts, movies, churches, synagogues, malls, high schools, hundreds of innocents murdered in mass shootings on your watch. I'm not arguing that he's to blame. The murderers bear that burden. But imagine being him and having the power to do something about it and doing nothing.
Gentlemen, Ciccolini here may talk like an idiot and look like an idiot, but don't let that fool you. He really is an idiot.
How many people died in gun violence under the Barack Obama administration? It was an absolute record. It was in the thousands. And how did Obama deal with it? Well, yeah, he convened panels. What did he really do to fix it? What did he really do to stop it? Nothing. Any more than this president really has the power, and more gun control, as we keep pointing out, isn't going to solve this. By the way, remember, we have a president that became very dismissive of things like terror attacks. Why, these were just random acts of violence, we were told. And the terror attack at Fort Hood by someone who was an Islamic radical himself, but yet member of our military? Well, we were simply told that was workplace violence. How did Obama deal with stress? He basically whitewashed it away, relabeled it, renamed it, said there wasn't a problem, and went on with life. Case in point, what did Barack Obama do while he was abroad and Brussels underwent a terror attack? Did he immediately come home? Well, he's the president. He can't end a trip because there's a terror attack. There were Americans killed in Brussels, remember? And what was the president doing on this trip that included Argentina and then Cuba? What was he doing in Argentina right after he got word of the attack in Brussels and that Americans had died? Well, certainly after he tangoed to get the stress and the anxiety out, he could focus as commander-in-chief and come home and deal with it. No, he went on to Cuba. And what did he do while he was in Cuba? Of course, you go with communist dictator leadership brothers, the Castro boys, to a baseball game in Havana. And you do the wave while you're there, too. Now, let me just say this. I actually don't have a problem with President Obama while he was traveling on something that had already been pre-planned, pre-scheduled. I don't have a problem with him being in Argentina, even going to Cuba, trying to somehow negotiate, maybe bring down the remainder of the Iron Curtain. I'm good with that. I don't think he had to stop everything and run home. I don't think he had to completely alter his plans. Now, sometimes we might talk about the optics of something, but nonetheless, he had to go on with the duties in the office of president, which sometimes includes diplomacy and placating to the wishes of your host. That said, President Trump underwent all kinds of criticism from having met not once but twice with Kim Jong-un after he was going to start nuclear war with him. Remember that? Remember all the fallout from that? So in other words, the president being able to sleep at night, seeing as how he only gets 4 or 5 hours a night, it's not a big deal. Because when he goes to bed and when he wakes up, he is immediately on the job. How on the job would Hillary Clinton have been? And really, how on the job was Barack Obama? And Bill Clinton while he was diddling with interns in the Oval Office? And George W. Bush? That, it's funny, this same clown news network, which constantly were trying to tell us that he was a bumpkin from Texas, just an old drunken playboy who managed to luck into the office of presidency, and Dick Cheney really ran everything. Dick Cheney orchestrated all that war. But Bush was oblivious to everything because he's kind of stupid. Yet now you're telling us that grizzled face, and he looked like he just took a beat down. He was obviously, the presidency was weighing heavy on him. Now all of a sudden he's a master statesman? Gee, that's not the way you talked about him when he was in office. President Trump has done more, accomplished more than those 3 yin-yang pictures that you just put up there. And by the way, Chris, no matter what you do, no matter what you say, you are forever Fredo.
I can handle things. I'm smart. Not like everybody says. Like dumb, I'm smart, and I want respect.
Hey, thanks for watching my Saturday rant. Make sure you give us a thumbs up and a like on this video. Share it with your friends. Let other people know about the channel. We are growing again, and I thank you for helping us get our subscriptions up. YouTube had been playing with our algorithm, and every day I was steadily losing subscriptions. We are now gaining, and I really do appreciate all the hard work you're doing in letting other people know about the channel. If you're not a subscriber, if you're the first time here, please subscribe to the channel and make sure you smack the bell for my next rant.